Hi, my name is Robin Cash. I'm originally from Texas and I now live in Denver, Colorado. My story started about 12 years ago in Texas. I was trying to safely get out of a very violent relationship, and my church, my family, friends, my neighbors, everyone was helping me and my twins to get out of this relationship safely. And the police had tried to help before and were restrained. Um, upon getting out of the situation, I was being beaten. I managed to get him to move away so I could get my kids out by swinging a toy bat, and he caught it and it bruised his arm. So while I'm going to the hospital and going to a shelter and going to get a permanent protective order, he goes to the police first and says domestic violence, and I get arrested. Um, my mother was unavailable because her sister had a heart attack, so my pastor, who had my twins, called my little sister, who called CPS to try to get me some help to deal with this abusive man. Instead of helping, they took my twins from my pastor's house after lying to him, and they never came home again. Um, Apparently, my children had mentioned a joke their dad had done, an adult joke, and so they decided my twins were sexually abused, and I had to go through all these classes. I did everything above and beyond the call of duty. They had me go to AA, even though I'm not a drinker, never had any trouble whatsoever. I did. They went 3 AAs. I went 7 days a week and became the secretary at AA. This was how I responded to showing the judge I'm a responsible parent, love my children, would do anything for them. A couple of weeks before my children were scheduled to come home, they went to a foster home 150 miles away, and when my kids freaked out, they put them on medication by a doctor who had a criminal record for abusing cocaine. When I found out my kids were having hallucinations, I wanted to give up my visit to take my children in to be seen. It was at that point they decided to terminate my rights, and they informed me that the children's father was trying to kill us and that I had to relinquish my rights to protect them because they said the children were sexually abused, and that if it got out, his story got out, that me and my kids would be in danger. And it scared me. I didn't want my kids to die, and I relinquished my rights. And it was after that that I got my discovery and found out it was all a lie. So I began fighting for my children. I had protests. I started a television show. I worked with Congress. Carol Keaton Staghorn from Texas, the state comptroller at the time, ended up writing a story called The Forgotten Children, which is about what's happening in foster care today. For the past 12 years, I have fought for my twins' safety while in the state's care. The twins were separated, and when the twins were separated, one stopped talking, and he ended up being raised, instead of by the adoptive parents, by the Methodist home. Recently, one of the twins graduated, and I wanted to go to the graduation. And I was told that if I showed up there to see my son graduate, that he would lose his home and his funding for college. In the meantime, I helped change laws all over the world. Used to, you couldn't have family foster care be considered at all. Now they have to consider family foster care first. CPS has put a target on my back because I stand up for my rights, and I stand up for my children and other people who don't have the strength to stand up. I stand up for them too. I moved to Colorado, where my new family was immediately attacked. I had a 5-month-old son and an 18-month-old daughter. I took my daughter in because she had a recurring bladder infection. Before I knew it, they took my daughter and my son and claimed it was sexual abuse. Even though they took my daughter to the Kemp Center and they said there was no evidence of any sexual abuse, that it was a bladder infection. It took 3 years for my case to close. I had a wonderful judge named Judge Melanakis, and when we were leaving the courts, I asked Judge Melanakis if he would please let me have a restraining order against CPS. And he laughed at me. And one of the last lines that CPS had wrote when I beat him in court was that if I ever got back with my husband again, the father of my children, who's a really good guy, that if I ever got back with him, they'd take my kids and I'd never see him again. Well, Judge Malinakis disagreed with the caseworker, found her in contempt and lying in court, and I didn't follow through with charges. I wish I had. But he sent me and my husband to another courtroom where we jumped through more hoops to get the protective order dropped so we could be a family again. So for 5 years, thank you, Judge, I was in heaven with my children and my husband. My twins contacted me and we were looking forward to reuniting when, ta-da, I called the police to remove a drunk from my front yard, and instead of the police doing what they were supposed to do, they backed me into my house, beat me, took me out of there, and I made some comments to the police officer for beating a 50-year-old disabled woman in front of her children, and he said, "I'm going to have your kids taken." He called his buddy. They went and woke my children up, claimed that we violated a protective order, and took my children, who have never come home. These are my beautiful children, Angel and Ben. They know I love them. They've separated Angel and Ben. Again, they said they were sexually abused. Angel and Ben talked with the therapist and said it never happened. And so, once again, I'm here fighting for not only my children, but for everybody's children. This is happening worldwide. I've led several marches and protests here. I've been in the newspaper numerous times, and again, I had my own television show. I'm a very proud mother to stand up for what I believe in, and that's the American dream. And Lawless America goes along with what's happening everywhere, all the way around the world. The good outweigh the bad, and right now the bad might seem like they're winning the evil, but they won't. They can't. We've already won. We know the end result. So there's my story.